There we go. Good morning, everyone. It's a great cover again to share some words of Torah with you. And thank you for the opportunity. May the schus of this mitzvah be protection for the soldiers of the IDF and also in protection and schus for the hostages that they should come to their homes safe and sound. Ezer Hashem, b'mheira b'yamin. So I want to speak about the Inyan Adayam, about Chodesh Shelo, which is now a preparation for Rosh Hashanah. Now, it's a very famous quote. Everyone knows it, especially kids in school. They're taught about it. The words of the letters of Elul stand for the words Anir Ledoide, Ledoide Li. I'm for my beloved and beloved for me. It's a famous pasuk in Shir HaShirim. But I want to understand what it means practically to us, what we can do about it, because we speak about it, we don't really think and ponder what the consequences are for us from this pasuk. So we know the following: the Torah tells us that Moshe Beno went up to Har Sinai 3 times. Twice, HaKadosh Baruch Hu was very happy and smiling towards Klal Yisrael. And once, the second time, when we made the Cheta Egel, then HaKadosh Baruch Hu was pretty upset with us, and Moshe Rabbeinu took 40 days to kind of convince HaKadosh Baruch Hu to give us a second chance. Now I want to focus on the third 40 days. The Midrash tells us that Moshe Rabbeinu went up to the mountain and the Rosh Chodesh Elul, and he came down the 40th day on Yom Kippur. So those last 40 days, which Hashem ended with the famous quote which we repeat every Yom Kippur night, Vayoyemer Hashem solachti kidvarecha. Hashem told Moshe, I forgive them based on your words. These are special days in which Hashem is kind of closer to us, so to speak. But there is a massive difference between the first 30 days, Chodesh Elul, and the last 10 days, which is between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, which we called Yom Noraim, the, how can I say Noraim? Thank you. It's the days of all the kind of more prominent, more serious days between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. I want to understand why the difference, what we can do about it, what lesson we can derive from it. So in Hasidus, there is a very well-known Moshon, parable, kind of tale that the rabbis tell us, which says that Kadosh Baruch Hu is compared to a king, and the Melech is Basode. The king is in the field. Now that's a medrash brought in Tanchuma, and the Torah also mentions it in the halachos of Chodesh Elul. And the emotion goes like this: we have a king and a town in his kingdom owed him tax, and they try to collect it, and nobody listened. No response came forth from the city, so he decided to gather a small army and go towards that city to solve the issue, like the kings did in those days. He came there, and the people from the city got noticed that the king was approaching. The king was marching towards the city, so they sent a small delegation. The elders from the city came forth. They explained to the king they had such and such problems. They couldn't gather the money. They didn't do it on purpose. The king forgave them a fourth, 25% of their debt. As the king was still approaching, they sent a second delegation with more representatives from the city. They explained to the king again in greater detail what the problem was. He forgave them half of the debt, Then, as the king was still approaching, they sent a third delegation, and the king forgave another 25%, means three-fourths of the debt. And finally, everyone left the city to greet the king, and he forgave them the entire debt based on how much they paid to him. That's the motion brought in Tanchuma that the two brings in. And from that, Hasidus takes the first part of it, that the king is approaching the city, the king is leaving his palace, he is going towards his subjects, and he wants to speak with them. That's the idea of Chodesh Elul. In Kabbalistic terms, Chodesh Elul is known for what we call Yud Gimel Midot HaRachamim, the 13 attributes of mercy. Means it's a great deal of mercy bestowed upon us in the month of Elul. So it's a very good time for us to try get closer to Hashem. Unlike the 10 days of Or, Serasim Tshuva, Yomim Noreim, as we call it, that God is compared to a king not in the field, but rather in his palace. And as you know, to approach royalty, you can't go first one comes first served. You have to have an appointment from them. You have to come at a special time, and you have to follow a protocol, and you have to be dressed in your finest, right? So that's how you approach royalty. So that's the difference between the Seres Yemei Tshuva, which are days of awe, in which we highlight the kingship of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and the 30 days of Elul, in which we highlight the closeness that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has to us. Now, I want to understand, why would a king go out to the field? Why is he seeking? What does he want? Because the Mashal in Tanchuma is about a king trying to collect his debt. But the Mashal brought in Hasidic terms is the king simply going out to give his subjects a chance to approach. And I think we can answer that question by understanding the difference between a king and a ruler. And the difference is like this. A ruler, unlike those who have just witnessed falling from power, or those who are still hanging to power, oppressing their subjects, their people, they rule by force. They're not interested in public opinion. They simply force their authority down onto their subjects, and there's nothing they can do about it. So people do not necessarily accept their authority. They simply have no way of objecting. That is not the case of a king. For a king to be a king, there has to be what we call the coronation. And the whole point of coronation is that the nation appoints the king or queen to be the monarch. There is this idea of accepting the authority of someone willingly. They appoint them to be their leader. And a king or queen, they remain king and queen because of the interest of the nation. They identify with them. They want them to be in place. So historically, kings and queens always sought to have allies, people that would care for them, so they would be able to rule over the nation in a good way. Now, HaKadosh Baruch Hu created this world. It's not interested in being a ruler. Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu is perfect, he doesn't need anything. He doesn't need our Torah mitzvahs. Our Torah mitzvahs are here for our benefit, for us to be able to be closer to Hashem. So Hashem is coming, so to speak, out onto the field because he's interested in having us as allies. He's interested in having us trying to get closer to him. And that's the idea of the king going out onto the field. So we say that actually every night. "Umalchusei berotzain kiblu aleihem." And his kingship willingly they accepted upon themselves. That's the whole idea in Jewish terms of a monarchy. We accept and identify with the monarch willingly. That's the whole concept of being a king. And that's how the king actually has to have some sort of beetle. The king or queen has to sit, and the nation, a representative of the nation, places the crown on their head. That's the idea of coronation. Now, how can we take that closer to our daily lives? What we can do with this knowledge? So I wanted to share a story with you, which I found in Chabad.org. It's a true story with an American lady called Sarah Tamarkin. She was an American student, and which is it's very common between universities that they make an exchange of students. So some British students went to America to study, and the university sent some students from America to study in British university. So that lady, she was not religious, but she was Jewish. She comes to London in 1997, more or less a month after Lady Diana died in a tragic car accident. She comes in September, start the new year of study. She comes along with some American students. Many of them are actually Jewish. None of them were religious. Among those students, there was one boy that he was a little bit more traditional, and he told his friends, "Hey, tonight is Rosh Hashanah. How about should we go to shul to daven Arvit in a shul? At least we should mark Rosh Hashanah, because tomorrow we are not going to shul. We are attending um, the studies, so I can't go to shul tomorrow. Let's go to shul tonight." They say, "Yes or no, it's a good idea. We have nothing else to do. Let's go." So go they went. Now, you have to remember those were days before we had smartphones. There was no Google Maps and no Waze. So the students that proposed the idea tried to memorize a map to the nearest shul. Needless to say, he got lost. He got everyone else lost with him, and they walked for hours. They remembered the streets uh, full with flowers and memorials from Lady Diana. They got very impressed, but after a few hours of walking, they got tired. They said, "You know what? We are not getting anywhere. Let's go back to the university, to the dorm." And they came back. As they came back, obviously frustrated, the student that proposed the idea said, "You know what? I have Mahzor with me. Let's make a real service of Rosh Hashanah. Then like this we can mark the day." So the other students were not interested. They were tired, they were frustrated, they were angry that they didn't get anywhere. So they said, "No, we're not interested." And that particular lady said, "I'll join you." So she didn't know much about Yiddishkeit, but she knew that when women come to shul, they have to dress properly. So, and they normally have a hat, so they should come to shul in their finest. So she took a scarf and she put over her head, and the two of them, the boy and her, sat there as he mumbled some of the service of uh, Rosh Hashanah night, and that's what they did. But that effort, that tiny service that they did, stirred something within her, and she started asking herself, "Maybe I should know more about my." And to cut a story short, she became religious. She became back to Torah mitzvahs. Today, she's a doctor in her own clinic in America. She's got a nice Yiddish family. Though that started because she and her fellow students, they tried something else. They tried to go out of the free zone. They tried to reach HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the best way they could. And that is what Elon is all about. Us trying to reach God. Now, some people may do a cheshbon nefesh, some people have New Year's resolution, but whatever we try to do, it is the idea behind is that we try to get closer to Kadosh Baruch Hu. That's what he wants, and that's in essence the famous pasuk we say, "I mean, thank you."
Very good words. Anybody got any comments on this, or shall I call the meeting to a close? Okay, thank you very much. I will turn off the Zoom now, and I will.